Hello everybody and welcome to the final round of the 2020.2 South African simGT series. I'm Jason Holden-Jones, of course, and I'm joined by Daniel Hans. Big welcome to you, Daniel.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Good to be back. It's the last race of the season, but it's Suzuka, and Suzuka was brilliant last season. Arguably, I think the best race we've had so far in ACC. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And as administrator, Daniel, I've dedicated this race to you, so I've made it as wet as I possibly can without getting too crazy.
I see the server settings have been tweaked slightly.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time we've ever had a wet qualifying, and obviously these guys have been going around already for 20 minutes. And I'm following Essa, who's in provisional pole, but he is ice skating around at the moment, so very, very tricky. Something that these guys maybe not so used to. Might shake the grid up, although we have got Essa at the front. Just looking down though, and where is Bashir Jadwat? Is all the way down in 14th place. Obviously he's our championship winner already. He's wrapped it up in the last round, so he's just on a parade race today, so maybe not so much practice went in, but possibly also the wet weather's just hindering his Porsche a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we've got their big teams championship fight this evening. It will be decided between ATK and Patterson Works Racing, Sim Racing South Africa. And we'll be keeping an eye on things and trying to work out the points as the race progresses to understand what the situation is.
So the drivers we're looking out for are the Pattersons, are they? And who's in the other team?
Yeah, so it'll be Kieran Patterson and Leslie Oliphant for PWSR, Patterson Works. And then we've got Bashir Jadwat, of course, and Quay Claessens in the 80k corner.
So we've got Kieran currently in 4th position and Quay Claessens in 5th. So they're very close already on track. But then obviously we've got Jadwat down in 14th. And is Leslie Oliphant on this evening? He is. He's all the way down in 22nd place. So each team member's split on different parts of the grid at the moment. It's going to be very interesting. We'll just have to see whether this weather continues into the race server, or whether it's just going to be a qualifying wet session. Devin Lish is still doing well in the Porsche, though, in 2nd place. So
yes,
it's certainly not just Porsches that can't drive in the wet.
Yeah, Danny's looking very strong, especially in final practice. He was fastest for a long time before Essa finally caught up to his pace. Put in a slightly quicker time. I think Devin certainly one to look out for this evening.
Yeah, enjoys Suzuka, obviously. It's a great circuit. Super, super tricky and technical. But I think that's why people like it, because when you hook it up round here, it feels so good. But there's such a big mix of super fast corners with like 130R, and then obviously very slow sort of gear 1 hairpins as well. So you really got everything that you could ever throw at a circuit in this one. I mean, just looking at the layout of it, it's like a kid's taken a pen and then just drawn a big squiggle with as many different shapes as they possibly can. Obviously, it crosses over itself as well, which is very unusual. But yeah, very, very good driver's circuit.
Of course, watching Devin Lish now in the SRC Porsche. Looking very comfortable, must be said.
Still quite a hefty gap to Essa of 6/10, though, isn't it?
It's certainly telling
and then Lish is obviously on his own as well again, because Langevelt's 1.3 back from the leader. So yeah, it's quite those two are a bit of a league of their own in these conditions, it has to be said. And then there's a bit of a bunched up section: Langeveld, Heineke, Patterson, Klug, Claessens, all only split by a couple of tenths.
We've got Christopher Langeveld there in 3rd position after that big fight with Bashir Jadwat for the victory at Spa last time around. Looking good there in 3rd position. Let's see what he can do this evening. And Chris Heineke, of course, Daniel as well, also had a strong run out last time at Spa. I think he finished on the podium.
Yeah, so he's having a solid finish to the season. 4th place is a great qualifying session for him as well. I think the big thing is whether these conditions are going to go into the race as well. Often when the server flips, he sort of resets the weather settings. So we've had races start in the wet, but we have never had a wet qualifying. There's definitely something new for the drivers to cope with. We obviously had a monumental wet weather round a few rounds ago, and that did dry out towards the end of the session. But yeah, great driving still in the wet. So I think guys have got a little bit more used to driving in these conditions this season as opposed to our first season in ACC, where it seemed like just the thought of rain was enough to put everybody off. This time I saw a lot of people in Discord actually looking forward to a wet weather race tonight, which was surprising to me. So maybe I'll get away with it after the race with these server settings.
Now, certainly when you think about Suzuka, you do think of a wet Suzuka most of the time, I think. Certainly
yeah, for sure. Yeah, showers, changeable conditions, it's almost part of it. Maybe why drivers love it so much is you've got to really adapt your driving to cope with the changing conditions, which is just all the time.
Authentic.
But it's not like, I mean, it's not that you absolutely hammered the server settings. It went up 0.1, wasn't it? It's a tiny, tiny change. And so, yeah, it could easily go either which way.
Kieran Patterson currently in 5th position. Looking good for some solid championship points. Good Lionel Clue in 6th position in the AMG. Parsons down in 7th. Hannes van Beek looking strongly in 8th position in the first of the Aston Martins. For Black Widow Racing. The Griffins. It's the team.
So as far as driving in wet conditions, I have to admit, I haven't done much wet weather driving in ACC because I don't race ACC that common. I mean, don't know whether you've done it, Jason. So what sort of setup changes would you make to your car to assist? Brake bias maybe much more forward than you would usually, just to make sure you're more understeery than you are back end coming out, possibly.
Yeah, I think so. And you'd also make the suspension a bit softer as well, just to be more compliant with the wet.
I know tyre pressures are incredibly important in ACC, so they'll probably have a completely different tyre pressure settings.
Yeah. But your ideal tyre pressures, of course, you need to find that out or work that out. You go in.
I think these guys now have put enough hours in that these sort of conditions don't seem to be as panicked as they were previously. I think a lot of drivers do already have a wet weather setup for their cars ready to go, especially towards the end of the season. They've been racing these cars, whichever one they've picked, for the whole season, at least some of them for a couple of seasons if they didn't change. So they got very familiar with them now. And it's the same with the Assetto Corsa over the years. Just guys got so familiar with the cars and exactly what setup tweaks they had to do. I think the further we go into ACC, the more comfortable people will get with them.
Of course, yeah. And ACC is sort of adapting all the time with the new updates coming out. They have the 2020 DLC that's just been released, which we'll see introduced into this championship from next season. We've got the new Mercedes-Benz AMG GT Evo, as well as the Ferrari 488.
And I believe the 2020 have also got a new tyre model on them as well, haven't they? So that's going to be quite a drastic change. So guys will be retesting all the cars, I think, before we go into the next season. But they got quite a big break and a long sort of, if they've got time off over the Christmas period, then that's the time to do it. Start selecting your car. Test out what's changed, what's good.
And a Bentley with a huge spin off. I think there's Nick Hodgson in the Point Blank Racing entry. But Christian Venter and the Lexus does miss him. Good to see Christian Venter and Christian Deploy in Division 1 for the first time ever in simGT. Started off in Division 3, I think it was 2 races ago. And they've worked themselves up to Division 1. So great to have them with us and doing well there in 13th position. Christian Venter is. And Duploy is in 16th, so holding their own very much in this session so far.
We've got the weather forecast showing for the. I mean, I'm not sure how that affects, but it's actually showing conditions getting worse. I wasn't here right for the state. Obviously, these guys have been lapping since for 45 minutes, just coming up to the last 6 minutes of qualifying. Was that right at the start of the server also this wet, or has conditions actually got worse? We might be seeing reverse track progression here.
It was it was very similar to this, but not as bad. So yeah, it's gotten worse. And I see there's a plus next to that third 30-minute prediction. So I'm not quite sure what that means.
Yeah, I mean, we had plus with lightning on one race a few rounds back, so it might explain some of these gaps that we're seeing in qualifying if they're set earlier on in the session on a track that was a little bit better of grip. So with the conditions getting worse, we might not see anyone improving in these last 5 minutes. Certainly Nick Hodgson I'm riding on board with is floating around quite excessively in that Bentley. Not easy at all.
Another driver is battling somewhat is Ross Bartel. Did very well in the Spa round last time round, battling with Judd White and Langevat for the victory for quite a lot of that race, but down in 22nd.
He's also been exceptionally good in the 2 rounds of TCR. Obviously, he joined mid-season, but next season, if he does the Touring Car Championship, he will definitely be one to look out for as far as championship standings go. He left himself too much work to do joining mid-season, but with a whole season, I mean, he finished so strongly. I think won 3 of the last 4 races. So very impressive from Ross Bartel. We'll be keeping an eye out for him in this race as well. But down in 22nd place, he's got a lot to do. Maybe not quite as familiar with the wet weather conditions. Audi's certainly squirming all over the place.
Yeah, because I think Ross Bartel hasn't really had a lot of experience in ACC. I think this might only be his sort of 10th race or so in the simulator at all. No, I think the Spa round was his first ever race in ACC. So nevertheless doing extremely well. So here Essa still in provisional pole position with just over 4 minutes remaining. It has to be said that he's got this wrapped up. He's about over half a second faster than second place driver Devon Nisha.
We've got one of the drivers, Henry Roux, who should be on track, has actually joined the chat just to have a go at me, basically, mid-race. He is not a fan of these conditions, it doesn't seem. Bless you, Henry. I'm sure you can still claw away at something. It might improve if you're still listening, but maybe get back out on track and improve on your 23rd place. Still 4 minutes to go.
Yeah, dial up that ABS and the traction control and give it your all.
Yeah, as high as it'll go is my recommendations on the track.
The Daniel Haynes setting is best for traction control.
Special setup for these 13. Conditions. Either that, I can highly recommend doing commentary and not driving. Get a career in commentary, Henry.
Great to see Amrish Sinarain joining the session as well. Currently in 31st, hasn't had a lap yet. But great to see Amrish back. He's been at SimRace South Africa for many, many years. Let's see how he gets on this evening.
He's got Hannes van Wyk has managed to get himself up into 4th place, which was occupied by Heineke, so he's managed to put in a time that's improved in this last part of qualifying, even in these torrential rain conditions. So it is possible. It's a great lap there from Hannes van Wyk.
Yeah, great to see the Aston up there.
Yeah, we haven't seen too much of the Aston this season. But one in 4th place. Maybe I understand it is one of the easier cars to drive in the rain, so it could be a good choice for the final round of the season. We had an absolute classic last time out at Suzuka, didn't we? We had a changeable track. It wasn't as wet as this by any means. We had a slight shower and then it dried out. We had the likes of Marcus Stain proving me a fool with his magical tyre compound that renewed itself. We had Leslie Oliphant clawing his way through the grid with a very, very quick Lexus. But it was to and fro, and it was a lot of passing, lead change several times, strategy calls. It was really, really good one to watch. And yeah, hopefully we can get a little bit of the same tonight.
Clue crossing the line. Now he might be improving if my timing board is correct. If he improves any position.
I think we're just missing the broadcast timing sheet on the stream. You got it on your screen, Jason? The tower.
See if I can find it. There we go. Sorry, everybody. There we go. We all sorted. Thank you, Daniel.
It was actually a recommendation from chat, but yeah, I did look over and missed this. So we're talking about times that you're not aware of. So your timing will pop up, or timing tower will pop up shortly.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
It's not changed a lot. We've got Zaire Essa, who's now sort of resigned himself to the pits. He's happy with a 2 minutes 11.127. Lisha was solid second place, still 6/10 back, but he's got that purely by himself by 7/10. To Christopher Langerveld in third place, but the top three are not looking to improve. So I think they feel like the track is certainly worse than where it was earlier in the session. Hannes van Beek, he's happy with his fourth place as well. Pretty much all the drivers now in the pits probably frantically hovering over their setups and which one they can pick, waiting for the server to flick over and check the weather forecast for the start of this race. Always a bit of a panic.
Still out there in 7th position. Only a bit of an improvement in my timing screen. 0.3 of a second or so.
Yeah, that could be enough to actually jump him up to sort of 4th position.
Could be big here for Clue.
Just went through 130R coming up to the chicane complex.
Oy, someone's gone off in front of him. Oh, it's compromised him, I think, has it? Yes, really.
Yeah, it's a shame Stefan Herps was just completely across the track just when he didn't need to be. Yeah, Clue's not going to improve. That's unfortunate because I think he would have gained a couple of spots there.
Christian deploy in the Mercedes-Benz in the 116. He's going around, slight improvement for him. We can get to the end now. Not sure if he crossed the line already before the timer went down. Mark van Rensburg 2 down in 24th, Daniel. Wow, we're not used to seeing there. He's just crossed the line, he's gone to 19th.
Yes, quite a few drivers in positions that we're just not used to, is it? Yeah, like you said, Mark van Rensburg, Leslie Oliphant, Bashir Jadvat, all drivers that are way down.
Qualifying wrapped up.
It looks like we are going to start in the wet, guys. The session is rolled over onto the grid and it's still just as wet.
Yeah, we're going to take a short break. Don't go away. We'll be back to the action as soon as we can. Welcome back to a very wet Suzuka circuit. The drivers getting prepared for the start of the formation lap, checking their setups, tire pressures perhaps, maybe adjusting cambers slightly.
They've got their buckets out, bailing out their cars because, I mean, track says flooded currently, which is, I've not seen that one before. This is going to be very interesting opening lap. And when you talk about cold tyres, cold brakes, I don't think they get any colder and wetter than this.
Yeah. So there's a couple of swear words combined with your name, Daniel, at the same time.
I would just like to officially put it out there that I have absolutely no part in choosing server settings or weather conditions.
You were the inspiration,
I literally
Daniel.
just rocked up to this race and had no involvement, so please.
And then, oh wait,
for all of
surprise!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Write your postcards to Jason in Germany.
Yeah.
It's all his fault, guys.
Listen at simracesa.co.za.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
So they're going to have a very wet out lap to try and get used to conditions, see where the track actually is flooded.
So 31 cars leave the grid to get this formation lap underway. All the cars on the pit limiters to get around the formation lap. We do like to do single file starts here to keep it clean at the start and make sure everybody gets away safely.
Yeah, especially on a flooded track. But I mean, it's so wet, we're struggling to even make out the cars on stream. So yeah, very gingerly round they go. Turn one and into the S's, as slow as I've ever seen a car go around here. I think the next lap won't be that much quicker, to be honest. So they've had 45 minutes to get used to some wet weather driving, even if they haven't done any before, so there's no excuses. I certainly feel like the likes of Esser, Lischer, Langeveld, they clearly spent a bit of time working on a wet weather setup, haven't they? Because they've managed to make it work for themselves. Possibly a few others concentrated more on a dry setup and didn't spend the time in the wet. So we'll just see how they fare throughout a 90-minute race. Obviously, an endurance race like this one, in these conditions, qualifying is not really important. It's just keeping it clean and just trying to stay on track and work your way through. I think a good result could be had from anywhere, to be honest, tonight.
I think just keeping it clean, so the first 5 laps or so will pay big dividends later.
Yeah, that we're gonna see a few cars skating off in the first few laps. Pretty much inevitable. So just coming up to the hairpin corner. So they gingerly work their way through to spoon. So yeah, the one big thing is every time I've done you do it just for the look of it. It looks amazing driving in the wet, but Esser has such a massive advantage being at the front of the pack because the spray, you just can't see anything. Possibly Lischer might get away with it a bit, but if you're starting midfield as you go down that start-finish straight into what is a very difficult braking zone of turn one, I mean that corner's hard in the dry, but with no visibility whatsoever when we get down there. This is going to be very tricky. There's a lot of runoff in turn one, but yeah, just avoiding other cars is going to be the difficult one.
Approaching the Kessler triangle now. Famous chicane. Yes, it's got even bunched up nicely. A lot of
Yeah, it
drivers.
feels like the slowest formation lap we've ever had here. But I'm sure they're probably still on the limiter. It's just it's a long lap anyway, isn't it? So it's a very long way around.
The driver's looking out for any puddles on the track as well, just to see, just to be prepared for the first lap of the race.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, the SNR through the chicane, and the race will start from the start line, of course, about halfway down the main straight.
I think people will be happy for a single file start this time round, and we've already got gaps. I mean, looking back to Patterson, suddenly seemed to have dropped off a little bit. So,
which might be wise at this stage. But fire red lights, and they will turn green shortly to get this race underway. Let's go. Here goes Essa. And Alicia immediately diving to the inside. No, Essa's got the whole shot. And we've got cars side by side here. Oh, Alan Patterson tag there, but is that Nick Hodgson? So around goes the PWSR Ferrari. All this contact all over the place.
Patterson side by side with Clue as well as they go into the S's.
Marcus Stain turned around, 26th position. We've got a spinning McLaren as well. Mercedes-Benz involved there too. But it is Essa.
Henry Rue was also around. Crew camp was round as well. We knew there was going to be trouble on turn one, and there was. There's half a dozen cars that are all rejoining the track now. Just about keeping it clean in these opening laps. That's all it is.
Chris Heineken, the Ghostworks Nissan GTR now. He is really putting it to Christopher Langefeld. Langefeld runs wide now. And Heineken not able to take advantage of the mistake. So got Hannes van Beek and Aston Martin right there with Heineken. It's a good fight this now for third position.
Those cars coming up to Spoon now, but I mean, when you exit Spoon and you're on that straight into the notoriously quick 130R, I mean, that really is hard work with the spray that you've got to deal with. Generally, you'd be trying to carry as much speed through there, but it's certainly not going to be remotely flat in these conditions. Heineken's gone wide in Spoon. Hannes van Beek's up the inside.
Van Beek has got that move. He's got Heineken in his mirrors. Heineken's coming back. How the Nissan showing?
I think there's going to be a few drivers going wide here in 130R. There's a lot of runoff area, but you do it too many times and you will be getting a drive-through penalty. We'll keep an eye out for that later.
With cars in the background off. Stefan Herbst recovering. Oh, we've got a spinning Audi in the background as well. Who is that? It's not Lindsay Ray.
Might be Ross Bartle, is it? Yeah, Ross Bartle is off. He came a cropper at 130R. Now, I thought there'd be quite a few guys going wide there and used to going a lot quicker through that corner than what they will be now.
Heineken's outbraked himself into turn one. He slots back in front of a PWSR Ferrari. I think that is Kieran Patterson.
Yes, Heineken's dropped behind Claessen's now. So he's in 8th position. Really irritating that the live tower doesn't update live, unfortunately. You've got to wait till they go through a sector time. But yeah, Patterson in 8th at Isherwood, so Heineken's down in 7th. He's lost another position to Patterson as he goes wide. Struggling in these conditions is Chris Heineken, which is unusual considering his qualifying time was set in the similar track conditions. In the meantime, our leaders in Essa and Lisha, who were sort of in a league of their own in qualifying, are already stretching away from the rest of the field. Essa's put a 1.6 second gap on Lisha, but Lisha's almost the same back to Langeveld, so those two are checking out. They were one of the two drivers that were on Discord earlier, not minding a wet weather race whatsoever, so they clearly had done a few laps in these sort of conditions, found a setup that worked for them, thought it might be a good opportunity for a good finish.
We're on board now with Bashir Jadwat chasing down Christian Fenter. Good fight this. See Jadwat ran. But no, I think he passed Fenter already. Fenter's coming back at him now. Up the inside. Wow, that Lexus. Oh, Lexus has gone far too fast to that corner. Off he goes. All rejoined behind Jadwat. Fenter under pressure now from Lawrence Sterner in the Odin Racing Ferrari.
We're going to see a lot of cars do that in 130R tonight. Just drift off wide and then back onto the circuit using the runoff area that's there. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we halfway through the race start to see drive-through penalties starting to pop up onto our leaderboard. Because you can only do that so many times here in ACC before you do get a penalty for off tracks and corner cutting. Well, Ventus just spun round behind Jadwat. Completely spun round on turn 1.
We're looking at Jadwat and Fenter came spinning across our camera view.
Entirely on his own, so yeah, track's moved from flooded to wet, so maybe that's some good news for the drivers. It's no longer actually described as a flooded track, but just a wet one. Try and tell that to Venter in turn 1.
Essa and Lisha already looking to lap drivers. We got an Audi at the back, I think is that Henry Roux. Yes, it is.
I'm slightly concerned that Henry Roux might be hunting me down at the end of this race. Not a fan of the wet, it seems.
Got Nicholas Hodgson in the pits as well. Looks to be repairing damage. Sean Bingham as well. Bingham's in fact left the server. It's the first retirement for us. Sean Bingham, sorry to hear that.
He's got Bashir Jadwat's managed to work his way up into 10th place. That's exactly what we're saying. He struggled in qualifying just for outright lap time. But keep it clean and work your way through. Don't worry about the lap times. Just keep it clean, keep on the track, and you gain a lot of places pretty quickly. So we're less than 10 minutes in. He's already gained up to 10th place. I'd expect Bashir Jadwat to be moving further forward. Had an exceptional season, has Bashir Jadwat. Ventus just completely lost it on 130R. I'm also following him again, just straight off the circuit. So struggling in that Lexus. That's twice in 1 lap.
Now with Jadwat, we're chasing down Isherwood in Aston Martin, and ahead of him is Chris Heineke in the Nissan GTR. We've got a Bentley off. Is that Hodgson? Could be again. Oh, and Heineke's run wide. So is Jadwat. And we have lost Isherwood, have we? Where's Isherwood?
Yeah, Isherwood rejoined behind Stern.
Hodgson.
Yeah, Lawrence Sterner's behind.
Hodgson's
And
back
Isherwood obviously went off.
to join the circuit without getting into what his name. Where? He has rejoined us successfully in last position.
Yeah, so Jadwat's the man on the move right now because he is tucked so closely up behind Chris Heineke. And he's up into 9th place.
Oh,
he wants 8th
in front of
position.
us. It's Claessen's off. I think he's had a run-in with Henry Roux while trying to lap him. Roux moves aside.
Roux's not
the three
enjoying
cars go
these.
past.
Claessen's was in 6th place, so he's dropped down now, and he's going to end up losing to Heineke by the looks of it as they go side by side, and they all come up to Spoon Corner together.
Oh, Claessen's run wide. Here comes Jadwat. He's side by side with Heineke. Expect
They get a
these,
little moment, and they have to come off the power, and when they come off the power, they lose so much of the place, don't they? It's just, your car's squirming all over the place, you instinctively just come off throttle. Jadwat's right up behind Claessen as they come up to 130R, the very quick corner that we've seen everybody just skirting straight off the circuit. See how these two do. I feel one of them is going to go wide. No, pure class from Claessen's and Jadwat. Nice touch from Jadwat. He's got a gold livery, slightly changed for this evening. right on board with Chadwick. The visibility is pretty horrific, isn't it, when you're that close behind another car?
Larson's just really let his teammate go now. Not fighting too hard.
So qualifying didn't really suit Bashir Jadrat, but he's loving the race. Consistency is key, and it's gaining him a lot of places. I think he started down in sort of, what, 14th, 15th, 16th position, something along those there.
Yeah.
And he's up into 7th place already in only the first 10 minutes of the race. So a good result is still on here for Bashir Jadrat.
Similar to what we saw at Spa as well. I think qualified in 5th position or so and had to work his way towards the front, which he did so. Essa enjoying an almost 3-second lead ahead of Devon Lisher. Langeveld by himself in the Lamborghini. Dennis van Beek in 4th position.
Yeah, top 4 cars are spread out with quite significant gaps between all of them, aren't they? So they can just concentrate on the track in front of them. Just see Leslie Oliphant, who also really struggled in qualifying, was right down, I think, in maybe 18th position. He's also gained quite a lot of places, up into 12th place. And this is obviously important for our team's championships, one of those drivers we were pointing out at the start of this stream. So he's working his way through the field as well. Surprising, because he was so good in Suzuka last time out, but he was in the Lexus, not in the Porsche.
Oh, we've got contact here between Marcus and Edwin Govender. Govender's running to the back of Stain. Turned around. And rejoins behind Alan Patterson.
And Govender's not moving either. He's off the circuit. Oh, he's just started to rejoin now. He was stationary for a very long time with Edwin Govender. Alan Patterson and Marcus Stain going very, very wide off in turn 1. So this is conditions really sort of taking their toll on pretty much throughout the field. Very hard to put a clean lap in.
Go back to Chris Heinecker, and now Daniel is chasing down Leslie Oliphant. This is the battle over 11th. Side by side goes Heinecker up the inside. I think he's got that job done.
Heineker's dropped back a lot, hasn't he, since the start? All the way back in 11th now. One mistake, you lose so many places, don't you? You're better off just trying to keep it clean and slow. Much easier said than done, though, it has to be said, in a track with a lot of cars on it and a very poor visibility. Interesting on our forecast, in 10 minutes' time, we got a rain minus. So I think the track is going to improve. I'd be very surprised if we do a whole 90 minutes in the wet. So if we start seeing a drying track condition later, the one struggling now might come into it a little bit later on in the race.
Devon Lisher sort of keeping up with Zahiesa. The gaps stay at just under 3 seconds. So Lisher doing a fantastic job. Great job there. Langeveld, yeah, he's 7 seconds behind.
Yeah, some big gaps at the front, isn't there? The midfield section is much tighter. Just watching Oliphant, he's actually moving way off of the racing line down the straight just to get out of the way of spray, I think. Heineke was off as Oliphant passed him.
Big shunt here by Jonathan Pence into the barrier. It's just clipped by Mark van Rensburg on the main straight, and he went straight on at turn 1.
Van Rensburg is off, just completely skating across the grass again.
Not sure if Pence can get that car going again. He escaped to pits, unfortunately.
So is Van Rensburg, yeah. So certainly the track's not improving too much quite yet. Bit of ice skating going on out there. Once you get off the tarmac onto the grass, there's just no chance of recovery.
Big fight developing here between Kieran Patterson and Lionel Clue. Just a couple of tenths in it, and Patterson's got Bashir Jadwat bearing down on him.
Jadwat is the guy on the move. He's the man on the move right now. He's really, I mean, he had quite a substantial gap. I thought we wouldn't have to check into him for a while before he got up behind Kieran Patterson, but he can see him on the straight already. Massive chunks of time disappearing.
You know, both ATK Porsches on the move. Carsten's staying right there with Jadwat.
I think there was about a 6-second gap at one point, only a lap or so ago, and it's down to 1.3 seconds as they went through the sector time closing. So Bashir Jadwat's going to be right up behind Kieran Patterson in a lap or two, I would imagine, at the most. So strange that he was starting so far down, and then in the race he can be so strong. Makes me think that the early track conditions in the qualifying session may well have been more beneficial if people put a time in then.
Come off in the McLaren. He's clipped the barrier, I think, but he's rejoined safely. And soon be lapped by this lot. Blue, Patterson, Jadwat, and Claessens. Let's have a look at Lawrence Sterner now. Very close behind Chris Heineke. Benz's moves side there. I think that is Christian Deploy. There's a side there for Heineke and Sterner. Stefan Herbst also in the mix in 14th position in the Lexus.
Yeah, Jadwat has halved his deficit to Patterson in the next lap as well. 1.3 seconds goes down to 0.6. So he'll be fully in striking zone towards the end of this next lap. Will Bashir Jadwat. And Lionel Clue is not that much further up the road either.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yep.
Sorry, Karen there, Jason.
Yeah, Kieran Patterson will be desperate to keep Bashir Jadwat behind him, of course, because this is part of the team's championship battle between these two teams.
Yeah, it's important where these guys finish, isn't it? Just thinking, it's very interesting that Lisha's doing such a good job, because I mean the gap's actually coming down to Esther now, 2.3 seconds rather than growing. So if these track conditions start to dry out, as we suspect they might do, and according to the forecast as well, possibly we could still have a race on our hands here, even for the lead. Because those two are really in a class of their own. Because I mean, the gap to Langeveld is just grows every lap, nearly up to 10 seconds. But Lisha is not being dropped at all by Zaire Esser. But yeah, Jadwal is really piling the pressure onto Patterson now. And this is where it's really difficult because you feel comfortable maybe in your car and the circuit. You've had 8 laps around it. You know where you can push, where you can't push. When you've got someone that is clearly quicker than you, catching you quite rapidly, it just makes you just take risks that you probably don't want to do. And that's when you can go off circuit and actually lose more time than just letting the car past. We'll just see how Kieran Patterson copes with the pressure.
So far, he's doing extremely well, Daniel.
He is, yeah. I just think maybe you try and carry a bit more speed than you normally would through 130R here as we come up to it, and you end up drifting wide. Just got to concentrate on your lap, and not worry about the car behind.
Let's just close the gap to Essa even further. It's now only
Clue's
1.5
off.
seconds. Yep, right in front of us. Right on board with Judd Watts. Oh, and Crew's gone to the back of Patterson.
Round.
That's crucial for the championship.
Jadwat got away so easily. That was 2 places made, and it didn't really affect him whatsoever. It's very unfortunate. Clue just rejoined and just tapped the back of Patterson. Don't think it needed a lot to spin him in these conditions.
And Lionel Clue just acknowledging what happened there, just waiting for Kieran Patterson to rejoin in front of him.
Yeah, just the lightest of touches on the rear end of that Ferrari, and it just spun it so easily.
Unfortunately, that has released the 2 ATK Porsches. Judd Watt and Carson scamper away now in 5th and 6th position.
Yeah, and we're looking at Oliphant and Patterson, aren't we, in the other teams' championships? And Oliphant's doing well. He's gaining places, but he's certainly not been on the same class as Jadwat, who's just carved his way through this field up into 5th place already.
Yeah, the PWSR never started advantage in the championship as it is now, so it's not over yet. Have to do some calculations just now, Daniel. We'll wait for halfway stage.
Spreadsheet out.
And then I'll get the spreadsheet out and go quiet for a little bit.
Get those formulas calculated is always difficult. But as it stands, I mean, Jadwat was the one we were surprised started so far back, and he's the leader of the 4 drivers now. He's had his exceptional first 20 minutes of this race. Still on for a very good finish.
Yeah, Jadwat got extremely was careful to get around that instead of not get caught up into it. So that was very well done by him.
It's an unfortunate place where Clue went off, really. So you go into that chicane, it's so tight there. You're coming onto the track basically sideways, and yeah, you've got to be ginger on the power as well. Any sort of contact and these cars are spinning around. Any one tire on the grass, they're off. It's just all about keeping well within track limits. Still pushing as much as you can, but just within yourself. Because the penalty for going off is much worse than losing a few tenths a lap. Possibly Jadwat just fancied starting at the back so he can entertain himself, because he is properly carving his way through this field. We've got the gap of Hannes van Beek, 4.9 seconds. We'll leave him for now and come back to him, but just keep an eye on 5-second gap to 4th place and see how quickly he closes. Just really impressed with Devon Lisher, who is just not letting Essa get away with this. 2.3 seconds, and it's been there for the last sort of 4 or 5 laps. The back half of this grid is changing all the time. So I checked on board with Marcus Dane, who was down in 20th odd place, and he's carved himself up to 15th position as well. So just string half a dozen clean laps together, And the places come back to you.
We just cut across the Dylan Dawes. He did very well on to run to his teammate Antonucci in 20th position. Outbraked himself and ran wide. He just lost a couple of positions.
He's got Henry Roux behind him. I think he's either not a lap down, or he's either a lap down, or these cars have not updated. I think he is a lap down. He's trying to unlap himself as Henry Roux, but he's sticking it out in the wet. Only separated by 3 places, but it is an entire lap as well, unfortunately. Henry Roux had a bit of a nightmare start.
Oh, we've got somebody turned around in front of us. Who's that? It's a Lexus. That. Oh, it's a Lexus that's a lap down. Could be Christian Venter, in fact, turned around in turn 1.
There's still cars making errors. They've got Lawrence Sterner on turn 1, just went clean off the circuit. So it's definitely not getting easier yet. We've got on the forecast of minus on the rain, but it's still not there. It's still just as tricky as it was. Hard to keep your concentration in these conditions. Really, really hard. Track always evolving. You're trying to feel grip where there isn't any. Can't really get into a rhythm. It just feels like every lap's different. Got a question in chat, what happened to Lionel Clue? He was running very, very well. I think he was in 4th position. And then he lost it in the chicane complex at the end of the lap. And came together with Kieran Patterson. And dropped him right down the order. He had to wait for Kieran Patterson to rejoin. But yeah, now he's dropped even further back. So it's gone to pits, hasn't he? So he's exited. He's obviously got damage or something else has happened because Lionel Clue's exited to pits. And we've lost a few drivers. We've got Nick Hodgson out. Jonathan Bentz is also out, sat in the pits.
Of Kieran Patterson, we've got Jason Isherwood in front of us. Just half a second in this fight. Ferrari against Aston Martin.
We've also got Bashir Jadrat's dropped behind Clarson's.
Yes.
So Clarson's has put a move on his teammate and is up into 5th place. So possibly Jadrat also had a bit of off-track experience. So even our championship winner is not immune to the track conditions. Hannes van Beek's been brilliant though. He had a great qualifying session and it doesn't look like he's put a foot wrong in the race either because he's still running in 4th place. So good showing from Hannes van Beek tonight.
Absolutely right, yeah, great to see him up there. Really improving as a driver.
He'll be an advocate for every race being in the wet next season. He'll be joining me with a rain dance on a Monday afternoon.
Good to see Blackwood doing well in the South African simGT series. Pretty got it locked in GP. Blackwood no domination this season in GP. Hasn't been too strong in GT, but yeah, certainly great to see Van Beek there in 4th position.
So it's the penultimate race of the season, because we've still got Division 2 in ACC on Wednesday,
Yep.
but possibly the last streamed race. But it's been a great season, hasn't it? The participation's been through the roof. Obviously, sim racing has been unbelievably popular this year anyway, with what we found ourselves with a bit of spare time on our hands. But yeah, it's been brilliant for Sim Race South Africa as well. We've had 3 very high participation series, and I think all very different, and they've all been enjoyable for different reasons.
So we've had a record season at SimRace South Africa, our best ever, with over 170 entrants. And as you mentioned, the 3 different championships, 3 very different championships in their disciplines, and it's been great to see all 3 very well competed in. And yeah, we already started looking at next season as to what we're going to do and how to fit everything in. If I can say this now as well, anybody wants to help out at SimRace South Africa as an administrator or whatever you feel that you might have strengths that you could bring to South Africa, SimRace South Africa, you're very well to send myself, Alan Patterson, or Ryan Hill a message, or yourself, Daniel, and let us know if you want to get involved. Yeah, working to do even more racing next season, but we need a bit more manpower to get that done as well.
Yeah, many hands make light work.
Yeah, of course.
But we've got a great variety, so there's something for everyone. And if you only like GP, that's fine. You can stick with it. If touring cars, front-wheel drives excite you, that option's available to you. Or if you like the cutting edge of Assetto Corsa Competizione and the fancy graphics, then you're sorted there as well. We've got you covered everywhere. And the Dirt Rally Championship for anyone that likes a bit of rallying. There's pretty much anything for anyone. But it's nice to see so many sign-ups. So yeah, great. Hopefully we can continue that in the new year after our break and a lot of practice over Christmas period. I expect some very quick drivers come January, eager to start a new season.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Daniel, this is the Division 1 race. We have the Division 2 race on Wednesday. I'll be racing that, hopefully. It's how we get on.
Are you possibly going to tweet if it's not wet on Wednesday? You know what they're going to say, don't you? That's all I'm going to say. If you get in your race glorious blue skies for 90 minutes, perfect optimal track conditions, then I think possibly you might get a bit of slagging off in Discord, but we'll wait until Thursday morning.
Yeah, I've been experimenting because I needed a button box, and I was going to go buy myself a physical button box. And then I sort of heard about the Elgato Stream Deck, and then I heard about another system called Touch Portal, which basically you can turn your old tablet or sort of old cell phone into a button box. So I've been experimenting with that and got that working nicely. It's very smart. I'll be using
so the Stream Deck works well, I have to say,
yes,
and actually running a stream is brilliant on it. I do all of my stream work with the Stream Deck.
Yeah.
It's quite an expensive button box.
Yes,
though.
yeah. This Touch Portal software actually works as a Stream Deck. That turns your phone or tablet or whatever you might have lying around into a Stream Deck. You can program all the buttons with all the icons. I used Chris Hay, the YouTuber, sim racing YouTuber. He made up a set of buttons to use, which I used. And yeah, I've got my old little Samsung Galaxy A3 as using it as a button box. It's with some very nice looking buttons and looks very impressive. So yeah, if anybody's a couple of buttons short and they've got an old cell phone lying around, or you can even use your current cell phone, I can say it works extremely well.
There's so much stuff you can do with sim racing, isn't there? It's crazy. I've currently got my spare bedroom as a bit of a workshop because I'm building an entire motion rig.
Wow.
So big actuators going on the rig. It'll be more a roller coaster sim than a racing sim. But we'll see how that goes. It's quite a long project. It might be a few months before that's finished.
And it's the great thing about having a dedicated rig is that you're always working on it. It's never finished.
Yeah, never do it, guys. Stick with the Logitech clamp to the desk. Yeah. That's what I can recommend. Don't do it. It's a bottomless pit, but it is quite good fun.
Back to the
I'm
action.
not being optimistic here, but the track looks possibly a tiny bit better than what it has been. I'm starting to see cars are slightly easier down the pit straight, but by all means, it's still incredibly well. I would actually very much like this to dry out now at some point. It's not the wet weather that I'm a massive fan of. It's the changeable conditions. If you have the same condition for the entire race, it doesn't matter whether it's wet or dry, to be honest. It's when drivers have to adapt to changing grip levels that makes it super interesting. See it in Formula One as well. Just a slight shower and the mayhem that it causes. So if this track does start to dry out, I think it would suit a completely different category of driver. Devon Lisher is still gaining time back on Essa, under 2 seconds now the gap from Zaire. He's having a brilliant showing, is Devon Lisher. Struggled a bit in Spa last time out, but Suzuka in the wet, he's got that thing nailed down.
On board now with Stefan Herbst in 12th position. We're chasing down Heineke and Oliphant. This is, over 10th position, in fact.
Oliphant's just very gradually moving himself forward, isn't he, up into 10th? So he's slowly working his way. I think he's not taking undue risks, but equally not putting in blistering lap times either. Heineke behind seems to have covered every position so far in the top half of the table at some point in this race. And Claessens, who got past Bashir Jadrat, and Jadrat was just relentless pace, is just dropped back. So I wonder whether Jadrat has got maybe a bit of damage or something where he went off and lost to Claessens, because he's not. We were looking at that gap to Hannes van Veen for about 5 seconds, and it's still nearly 5 seconds to Claessens. Jadrat further back, so his move through the field has halted for the time being, anyway.
And Stefan Herbst is carving himself through the field. He's got past Heineke and Oliphant up into 10th position. He goes. Almost like Oliphant just moved aside for him.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Oliphant was just completely off throttle, way out, just almost happy to let these two pass. Very strange.
He's let past Heineke as well. I wonder if there was contact between himself and Heineke, and has fallen back to wait for him, in effect.
Yeah, I think it must have been. It was definitely waiting and completely off throttle around the final corner.
Lisher now just 1.5 seconds behind Essa. I wonder if Essa just caught up by a bit of traffic there. It is Amri Shinarain that they're moving past.
I mean, we're 16 laps in, and it was basically the first 8 laps of this race, Essa was pulling a lead, and the last 8 laps, it's very slowly been pulled back by Devon Lisher. And he's now not far away at all. Under 1.5 seconds is the gap from Lisher to Essa. Maybe just hovering around there. It's difficult to tell without fully live timings. Those front two runners in Essa and Lisher are just relentless pace over the rest of the field. I mean, to Langeveld, who's a very quick driver in 3rd place, 20 seconds behind Lisher, massive gap. So we saw that they were sort of a world apart in qualifying, but they've just been on the same pace at least in the race as well. 17 laps, and to gain 20 seconds over the 3rd place driver is pretty impressive driving from the top two.
Lisher now just 1.2 seconds behind Essa, Daniel. Been very impressive at this stage.
Yeah, and you can be sure Essa will know about it. He'll have relatives on his screen for sure. He'll be seeing that Devon Lisher is just quicker per lap. Not by a lot, but he's just clawing that gap back. Knocked a second off of it in probably the last 4 or so laps, I would say. Must be going around a couple of tenths quicker. Check last laps. RS's last lap was 2:13.4. Lisha was a 2:13.3. So just a tenth, and it's coming down.
And Lish's best lap of the race is a tenth quicker than, half a tenth in fact. Pretty much equal with Essa.
It's going to take him a while to get into a striking zone, but it's just knowing that, I mean, S is probably thinking, well, I've got the clean track ahead of me and I'm putting in as good as I can possibly do, and yet he's not pulling away, and he might be a little bit concerned. I wouldn't have, let's be honest, IRS, he can cope with the pressure. So I doubt it really passes his mind too much, but he definitely will be aware of it and his relatives that a driver is going with him. And it's not going to be easy. He certainly can't let off. This is where, if the track dries out, whether that really pays, because the Porsche has been so strong all season, and I think Essa was actually looking forward to a wet race to help himself out with that Ferrari. Might be a little bit nervous if the track or a drying line does form. We've still got 49 minutes to go. The weather is not, the forecast has been the same really, hasn't it? It's not changed at all. I haven't seen it change at all actually.
There's no real wind to speak of too. It's 2 kilometers an hour, so there's no wind to sort of push it along as well.
I was supposed to have been at this circuit in September, but my trip to Japan got cancelled and it's now next year.
Okay.
But I very, very much look forward to going here. I do hope that it is better weather when I'm there. I don't really want these conditions. But yeah, I think it's one of those ones, if you're in the area, you somehow got to go there. It's such a classic. Very disappointed to have that cancelled, but I think everyone's had something cancelled this year, unfortunately. Yeah.
It's approaching a bit of traffic now. One of the Bentleys on board with Lisha now. We're just 1.4 seconds behind Essa. There's the race lead, staring Lisha in the face. Bentley moves aside well. The gap down to a second now. Oh, Lisha's so confident through 130R.
Maybe that, I mean, you just go at your start, you're just, let's keep it safe, let's keep it on the black stuff. But as the laps roll on, you've got 18 laps under their belts now, they will start feeling where they can push a little bit more. Just every lap, just taking a little bit further. And the confidence build, especially if you haven't had any moments. Certainly Lisha looks like the most confident with his car on these track conditions right now as it stands. So the gap comes under a second for the first time since basically lap 1, I think.
Yeah, Essa struggling. He's running wide, all over the place, and Lisha looking much more comfortable at this stage.
I don't know what tyre wear is like in wet conditions, but possibly S has not got them in the optimal zone at the moment, because Lisha just looks more planted, doesn't he? Porsche just looks very stable behind. His 1/10 a lap is quite a lot more. We're almost half a second a lap in the last 2. It's just basically right by him now. Saw how strong he was through 130R, the last lap, but coming up to Spoon. Carries a lot of speed through 130R. He may be side by side by the time they get to the chicane. It's nice to see Assetto Corsa Competizione getting updates. I mean, I'm just looking at my FPS counter. It's significantly higher than it since this last update, since the last race where I streamed. So they're Kunos constantly making improvements. So I think that people have been quite complimentary about most of their improvements. Really, it's starting to really come together as a simulator. Any concern that were there right at the front. The only thing that me and Jason want them to look at now is the broadcasting and the timing screen. But I think they've concentrated so much on the car handling and tyre models and performance, which is obviously very, very important. It's always struggled, but it definitely on the up is ACC.
It's actually turned into a very impressive simulator. I think it's just going to keep getting better and better.
Halfway through, not over yet.
It's going to be fascinating to see what Kunis's next project will be, as in the next simulator that they build.
Yeah, you can be sure they're working on it. I mean, they haven't got everyone just doing two tracks and two car models for the last 6 months. They'll be well advanced onto the next project, that's for sure.
I think what would make sense if they use this simulator as a platform for AC2, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone is just guessing and assuming. It might take them a couple of years to get there, but yeah, you can be sure they're working on it. 100% they're working on it. They've got the basis of an excellent platform. So Lish has got up behind, and then he's struggled to get any further. So the gap's still 0.8 seconds. He's in the window. S has maybe just been given the hurry up that he needed.
So I wonder if the drivers are seeing that minus in the forecast and wondering, do they need to extend their stints to sort of match up with the drying track later on? Because of course you want to run as long as possible now, so you only need to do one pit stop.
I didn't know whether my forecast is broken though, because that might have been on the 10-minute marker.
I mean, the next Archon that come might be a dry Archon. We don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea, but it doesn't seem to be shifting its way down, does it? That? So with 43 minutes to go, and the track's been very considered. Lish is in the pits. Lish is coming in, so he's the first one to come in for a pit stop.
Pull the trigger.
So I think Lish has either ran out of fuel or he just set himself up that he had no choice, because he'll be coming back out on wets as it stands. He's certainly not trying to drag out a stint to see whether the track dries out. Essa will be aware of him in the pits because fresh tyres in ACC is so important. The undercut is by far the easiest method to make a pass. So we'll be expecting Lisha to come flying out of the pits and pushing as hard as he possibly can. That's when we might see a mistake also though. Dangerous in these conditions to push hard on a first lap. Maybe we'll see Essa matching and reacting and coming in this lap.
Cover him off.
Yeah, I think maybe we will, because the gap back to Langeveld was so massive that he's really only got to worry about Devon Lisha. Knowing how big the undercut effect is.
And this one, Vegas continuing to impress Daniel. He's just 1.5 seconds behind Langeveld. Going to challenge now for third position.
He's having a great night, isn't he? He's loving it. Make no mistakes, Christopher Langeveld is a quick driver, and Van Beek is pulling him in here, 1.1 seconds.
Lish has cleared a bit of traffic now, which slowed him down slightly. It's not what he needed.
Just keeping an eye on Essa, who's coming through 130R now. We're just seeing whether he does react to Lish's earlier pit stop, and whether he too chooses to come in, or whether he's going to continue to extend his stint. No two ways around it. He'll definitely know about it. He'll be thinking about his options. He's coming in. No, he is. So Essa is reacting to Devonish's pit stop, and the very next lap he comes in as well. I think he'll be pushing very hard that lap. So it'll all be whether Lisha managed to get a clean lap. It looks like he had to negotiate through traffic, unfortunately. Had got Venter behind him. So undercut might be difficult in these conditions anyway, let's be honest, but even harder when you've got to negotiate other cars, spray, And Esther had a very clean in-lap. Bashir Jadwat is also in the pits from 4th place. Just starting to see the start of the pit stop window here. Lish is just coming through the chicane, and Esser is leaving the pits now. So I think Esser had a massively quick in-lap. We got Lish just coming down the start straight. He's not going to do the undercut. In fact, he's lost significant amount of time.
He's done it, yeah.
I think he just got held up on his outlap.
So, probably battling with tire pressure a bit as well.
Yeah, it's just not the track to like come out confident and just give it your all, is it, on a fresh set of tyres? Probably even more feel ginger about going round. But I definitely think Esser reacted to Lish's pit stop. Took the next possible opportunity to pit himself, cover him off, and he is still our net leader. In fact, we've got Bashir Jadwat. He's trying to work out what happened to him. On our timing screens, he was ahead of Lisha, but it's just not updating on sector because there's just no way that could be the case. So yeah, he has dropped back behind.
Just on his pit stop, yeah.
Yeah. Gotta hate those timing screens. They'll catch you out every time. Gotta wait until they pass the sector, and they rejoin. So yeah, Bashir Jadwat's moving back into his rightful place of 9th, but still got Oliphant and Sterner in front of him to pit.
Lisha, as you mentioned, there's 7.2 seconds behind Esser, so yeah, lost 6 seconds there.
Yeah, unbelievable. So a combination of S having a very, very clean in-lap and Lisha just not getting it right on the out-lap, and it's yeah, a very close gap is now something quite substantial. So I do think the server forecast is broken because the rain minus figure is basically burnt into my monitor now. I think this will be there for the rest of the life of this monitor. It's been there that long.
Yeah, it seems that way.
37 minutes to go. I would be absolutely amazed if we go an entire race with this wet weather, but it's looking like it's not changing anytime soon. Two whole seasons of ACC, and we've never even got remotely close to having a full wet weather race.
Yeah, the weather seems to have got a lot more constant and more consistent.
Yeah, first season we had a few little showers. Never really had we didn't have a wet race at all, but just a few showers. That was enough to keep it interesting. This season we've had 2 wet races, but one finished in the sunshine and dry. This is the first time. And we got Jadwat completely sideways through turn 1, and he tried to hold it for as long as he could, and he spun round. He's going to rejoin. So our championship leader still finding track conditions super tricky.
Where has he rejoined now? Must be what, 9th position? Of course, that's helped PWSR in the Teams Championship fight this evening.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I think I should start doing a bit of maths now. Let's try and see where we are.
So we've got Quay Clarson's is still doing exceptionally well, but he hasn't had a pit stop yet, so he's in 3rd place shown on the timing leaderboard. But that's not his net result because he should be behind. Well, he might still be. Oh, he's got Christopher Langeveld and Hannes van Beek in front of him that have just pitted. They're coming to their pit stops now. So I've got Clarson's probably a net 5th position. Be behind Esther, Lisha, Langeveld and Hannes van Beek.
Got Langeveld and Van Beek into the pits now, from 1st and 2nd.
I think is looking good for Patterson Works Racing because Kieran Patterson is still up there, around with Clarson's got Leslie Oliphant, who is still got a pit though, Leslie Oliphant. So I think he should be behind Bashir Jadwad actually when he's had through his pit stops. It's going to be very close. And he said Patterson Works had a slight points advantage going into this final round. That might be vital towards the end of this race as to whether they keep that position. See, it's compulsory for all drivers to have a pit stop, so there's no chance of anyone trying to avoid it. So we've got Carson's, Patterson, Oliphant, Sterner, Alan Patterson still hasn't pitted, Edgen Govender not pitted. Most drivers have done their pit window.
Someone's off in the background. It's a Bentley. Who's that? Who that is? Edgen Govender. Let's see how long Kieran Patterson goes. He traditionally does go a bit longer than the other drivers.
Obviously, you save time in refueling if you do an incredibly long first stint.
You know, I see that minus sign is now not part of the forecast any longer.
Oh yeah.
And it's getting a bit darker, I feel.
It's just rain, yeah. It's certainly not getting better, is it?
Worse. Quite a dynamic weather system now in ACC, by the looks of it.
It's almost impossible to predict it, and you can't even predict it with server settings, really, can you? And you change it by 0.1 on the server settings, and it could mean nothing or it could mean everything. It's just luck of the draw, really.
So it was going one direction, now it's changed the direction before it got there, essentially.
There's only 30 minutes left of this race. Probably not going to be long enough for this to dry out. With the forecast saying in the next 10 it's going to still be raining. So we could end up with a full wet race for the first time in Sim Race South Africa. Lawrence Sterner just coming into the pit, so it just leaves Oliphant, Patterson and Clarkson still really to pit from our leaders. As far as the team's championship goes, obviously we need Patterson and Oliphant to pit before we can actually work out where they come out on track.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for.
Right now. Pit stops seem to be taking a very varying amount of time. It's not easy to predict at all where people are coming out. Lisha came out 7 seconds behind Essa, and he's still 7.5 seconds behind. It sort of took the sting out of this race, unfortunately, for the win, because it was very, very close at one point. Thought we were going to have a real battle between those two drivers. 7.5 seconds is going to be a hell of a lot to try and get him back in a stint. I mean, Nisha pulled in 2.5 seconds in the first stint, but I don't think 7.5 seconds is going to be possible.
And then Patterson onto the pits together with Amrish Sinarain.
So I've got that as basically Clarson's, Patterson and Oliphant are the only ones left to pit. So Clarkson and Patterson have filled their tanks right to the brim at the start. Just think we'll go as long as we possibly can. they end up with a splash and dash to finish here. Probably didn't think they'd be probably keeping their options open in case the track dried out.
I think so, yeah.
Possibly thinking, well, if I got enough fuel in there, no matter what happens, I'll be covered. Probably not expecting to come in and put wets on again. Quite a sensible decision, really.
Could have easily gone that way. They can still go that way.
The longer we go on, it looks worse, doesn't it? The rain's absolutely hammering down on my screen. We've had those minuses, and now we're back to full wet. So we really just need these front two runners and Oliphant to come into the pits. So we start formulating where people are going to position themselves. Parsons has gone through again.
Yeah. Does Pedersen do? Here comes Kieran. He comes
Coming
in. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Clarkson literally got them to shake his car when he filled it up just to get that extra half litre in, because he's filled that thing right to the brim. Endurance tank. As has Leslie Oliphant.
But he's still out. Let's see if he comes in this lap. Yes, he does.
Yeah. So Claessens is the only driver on the circuit that hasn't pitted. He's in first place, but you think eventually he's going to run out of fuel. He's coming through the hairpin now, so he's still got quite a bit of track left to go.
And Pedersen rejoins in front of Langeveld. That's very interesting. Langeveld was in third position before the pit stop phase.
Yeah, so going longs maybe help Patterson. Light car. He was obviously massively fueled at the start, so you'd expect him to be quicker and a much shorter pit stop as well. We're not talking a few laps longer. He's gone a lot longer, hasn't he? So his actual pit will be a lot less, because the fuel time takes a significant amount more than the tyres, usually, if you're going for a 50-50.
That's a net gain for Pedersen. Let's see where Claessens ends up after his pit stop.
Probably a very good strategy to have in these conditions anyway, because you're not pushing your car at the start of the race by any stretch of the imagination to its limits. So being slightly heavier on fuel, not going to be as punishing as it would be usually on a dry circuit. And it just gives you options, doesn't it? No matter what happens. So Claessens and Patterson could have a good gain here from massively filling with fuel.
Claessens stays up, okay.
It's still out. I think it might have a hybrid in that Porsche. Very good on fuel economy is the 911 RSR. There's a good advert for a Porsche economy rating. We had Marcus Stain last time out, Suzuka, generating his own tyres, and we've got Quade Claessens this time out generating his own fuel. Yeah, I think Lisha might be being a bit demoralised when he came out of his pits and just saw that gap go from half a second to 7 seconds and resigned himself for a second place finish here. It's a real shame because it was looking so tasty towards the end of that first stint. Thought the undercut might prove to work even, but it was a massive net loss in the end through that pit stop phase. For whatever reason, either Lish's pit stop was a lot longer, maybe overfueled a bit. Claessens is coming in finally. He enters the pit lane, so we'll see whether going incredibly long has helped Craig Claessens as he comes into the pits. Only 20 minutes to go. Will he even bother changing tyres?
Good question.
Could just be a splash and dash finish here for Claessens. Very short pit stop. It's going to be really interesting to see where he comes out. We saw Patterson gain quite substantially through the pit window. Claessens could come out in third place here, or he almost should come out in third place to be honest. Yeah, very quick pit stop from Craig Claessens. Don't think he changed tyres, I'm not sure. He just seemed to just barely stop. And he's going to come out in the third place, I think. Where's Kieran Patterson? Oh yeah, miles further back. And he just come around the final corner now. So it's an easy net win from Claessens going long. Patterson and Claessens, massive winners from their strategy calls.
Yeah, Langefeld's gone down 2 positions. Doing a more traditional strategy. And what's over to Langefeld? I think I've lost him off the server.
Yeah, I see him on my screen as 5th on the broadcast, but he's just completely off the server, isn't he?
He's gone. I think something's happened. Lost Langefeld.
He was in 5th when he exited, yeah.
Oh, that's a big pity.
So Claessens has taken up the position that Langeveld was in. I mean, Esser and Lisha were just massively quick in stint 1. That built a 20-second lead, and they still got it. 23 seconds to Claessens. But by going long, it's really opened up the possibility for Claessens and Patterson. They've massively gained out of it. Hannes van Veek, who was just purely going around in his own, probably doesn't understand how he lost those places. He's down in 5th now, 6 seconds back. So only 22 minutes left to go. It looks like the race is going to just continue to be wet. Track conditions not improving at all. Let's just check to see from fastest times. See, Esser's quickest lap of the race was a 2:11.9. His last lap was 2:12.6. So it's been pretty consistent, it has to be said. Devon Lish's fastest lap of the race was a 2:12 flat, and his last lap was a 2:12.2, only 0.2 down. So it doesn't look like it's got better or worse. It's just basically the same. We've had 70 minutes of consistent rain and track conditions basically identical throughout. Probably not the lap times they're expecting to see. There's been a great drive from Craig Claessens. Used the strategy call wisely, and he could finish in a podium place here. Bashir Jadrat, who was just the man on the move in the first stint, has halted his progression and has just ended up just sat in 6th place and not really pushing forward any further. But he was catching people so quickly in stint 1. And Leslie Oliphant also finished his pit stop window, went long as well. similar to Patterson, and he's net gained as well, so he's in 7th place. So we've got Clarkson's ahead of Patterson by 1 place, Jadwat ahead of Oliphant by 1 place. So Ghostworks are leading Patterson Works.
Yes. Yeah.
However, what was the gap when we went into this race? Was it enough? But it doesn't matter.
So as it stands now, ATK will have it done with 967 points, and PWSR will have 921.
So we need Patterson or Oliphant to, if they want to finish in team champions, they need to pass the car in front, basically.
Quickly. Now they need a 46-point swing. I think that's asking a bit too much at this stage.
Yeah, so even if they both pass, it's probably not going to be enough.
I think ATK are doing enough here.
So yeah, Clarkson and Jadwat have done what they need to do. I mean, it's not surprising really. Pasha Jadwat's had an exceptional season. I mean, the points he's clocked up on his own is quite significant. Even if he didn't have a teammate, I think he'd be right up there for the team result. But Clarkson's had a few strong races as well, and he's having a very strong one tonight. He looks now down the podium.
As it stands now, Quay Clarkson's will finish 2nd in the championship as well. So really a clean sweep here by ATK. And then 3rd will go to Leslie Oliphant in the Drivers' Championship.
So 3 Porsches.
Yeah.
It's ominous for sign-ups for next season, Jason. Do we start adding an extra bill if you want to drive a Porsche?
Yeah, I'm not sure it'll be the car to be after the 2020 BOP and cars and whatnot. We have to see.
Yeah, so we're still running the 2019 BOP, aren't we, now? Is that...
Correct,
or is it,
yeah. Correct.
You can do that.
Correct, we're running just the 2019 cars and BOP.
Yeah, so that might definitely have... I sort of hope it does have an effect for next season, because it would be a shame to have a Porsche Cup, really, to be honest. The Porsche has been so strong. We saw it last season, it was strong. And then this season, even more so, really. It's been dominant force, was the Porsche. The only track we thought it might struggle out of Spa, and Jadwat ran away with it again anyway. It was a very good win by him, though, in not easy conditions again. So he is, I think he was quite surprised about his win at Spa. But overall, that Porsche has been a relentless force this season. Maybe with the BOP changes, it might be a different story next time out. Got a few new cars to choose from as well. A lot of people being very favourable about the new Ferrari. It's supposed to be a nice improvement on the last version.
And the same goes for the AMG as well, as far as I hear, that the mid-corner understeer is greatly improved to help that car.
Yeah, so no doubt people, as soon as this season is finished, these guys will be on the case, working out which car's the quickest on which lap or which circuit. And then as soon as the schedule's posted, they'll hopefully not all gravitate towards the Porsche, just for a little bit of variety. Not that I've got anything against the RSR, it's a great car. just a bit of a manufacturer's variety would be nice.
Yeah, of course. And if you're watching this and you want to sort of know when the new season will start next, we haven't finalized the calendar yet, but we're looking in late January, most likely, to get the 2021.1 season underway. And everything will be announced in due time, of course. Not too many battles happening at the moment, I don't think. A bit further down the field.
We got our first drive-through penalty
Yes.
in Chris Heineck, who's serving it in the pits, I suspect, from track limits. Actually thought there'd be quite a few more, to be honest. But if you don't gain an advantage, I guess, you don't get a track limit warning. So very possible that a lot of cars that have been off circuit obviously didn't gain an advantage. So Yeah, not as many drive-throughs as I thought there would be. Probably even less than there would be if it was a dry race. See, Jadwat is just gone way wide in Spoon. Still very, very tricky conditions. So you've got a massive grid on Wednesday night. I saw the list was as long as your arm.
That's I'm not expecting everybody to race on Wednesday night, but I sort of put everyone together, and I think could have a similar turnout to the race this evening for Wednesday.
Yeah.
This is a natural part of the season where you have less people actually racing, and you can have up to 100 cars on the grid at Suzuka. That makes things flexible from an organizational point of view.
Massive amount, isn't it?
Yeah.
So anyone that's watching in on the stream and they are racing on Wednesday night, I think a lot of guys use the Division 1 for a few cheeky tips.
I think so.
If it's wet weather, then possibly fill it as high as you can go, because that's the one thing I've learned here. Carson and Patterson have been the big winners for me on a strategy call by just filling their car as full as it'll go and having a splash and dash finish. They've really gained out of it. And I don't think they lost too much in their first stint at all, as they were just trying to keep their cars on track.
And they sort of pulled up a radical overcut as well, as long as possible.
I think they just made their actual physical pit stop so much shorter that it just regained anything they lost from having heavy fuel. Now, it'd be unlikely to have the same server setting, the same server settings, but it'd be unlikely to be exactly the same. It's just the way ACC works. But there you go, they've learned something.
Yeah. There might be a dry part of the race towards the end of the race on Wednesday. Who knows? Or it might just be like this, or it might be dry start and wet end.
Dry for the entire race, yeah.
Anything is possible.
So moving to the last 30 minutes of this race, and Essa, I mean, he's had a much more comfortable second stint than he did the first one, that's for sure. Gap is still 8 seconds. It's unfortunate because Lish just had the pace, isn't he? Because even in the second stint, he come out and it was 7.5 seconds. He's within a second of that still. Yeah, it's just as soon as you see that and you come out and you check your relatives, you must look at it a few times thinking, sure, when's that going to update? And it doesn't. It stays there at 7.5, 8 seconds. What went wrong? Because he was so close and gaining, had confidence in that Porsche, and then it would have been a bit demoralising to lose so much during the pit stop window. Esther will probably be slightly relieved, though, I think.
It could be that the Ferrari's a bit better with a heavier fuel load on, and maybe the Porsche's a bit better with the being lighter.
Yeah, maybe. Would it be S's first win of the season? I'm not sure he's taken a victory yet in this season in the Ferrari. Struggled a bit in the Ferrari. Was awesome in the Porsche last season.
It's he won round 2.
I got round 2.
Could be his second victory this season, and Jadwat has had 4 victories this season.
Yeah, he's been pretty class act as Jadwat.
S has missed 2 races, however.
We've had a lot of drivers confirm that their Aston is quite a neutral car to drive and is more suited to wet weather conditions. We've got Hannes van Beek and Jason Ishwood, both performing incredibly well in 5th and 7th position. It does seem to reaffirm that sort of stereotype of the Aston, if you like, that it can it's easier to drive in a whole mixture of conditions, especially in the wet weather. They've had a great outing, but the Porsche doesn't seem to have a weakness. When you start seeing that Porsche logo in the leaderboard, every race is there or thereabouts.
Yeah, the one weakness it might have is that on sort of a long straight, it seems to run out of steam compared to the other cars. You saw that at Spa, but it certainly makes up for it around the corners.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So we should just
it's
look
sort
at
of
the calendar you
depending on the tracks we choose for next season as to if the Porsche is the way to go or not.
gains its lap time in different ways, doesn't it? Like Bathurst, it seems to be close enough because it's so quick through the mountain section. Everything it loses on the straights, it seems to regain there. Spa definitely seems to be its weakness, and ironically, we had a Porsche that won that race anyway. I think that was just pure class driving from Bashir Jadwa that evening. We saw Lisha just took a second out of S's time on that lap. 2:12.8 was S around. 2:11.5. In fact, that was the fastest lap of the race for Devon Lisha. All of a sudden, he's got 10 minutes to go. He's having some fun out there. I suppose he might as well. He can. If it was Formula One, he'd be coming in for fresh tyres and going for the fastest lap now because he's got 31 seconds back to Quade Clarson's in third position. He's just gone faster again, does Devon Lisha. 2:11.3.
Oh.
Just pulled another second off of Essa, who was a 2:12.3. In fact, I think that is the fastest lap of the race. The IRS's fastest lap of the race, 2:11.7, and Lisha's just done a 2:11.3. Lisha is absolutely flying in the concluding part of this race. It is such a shame that a massive chunk was lost during the pit stop window, because with 6.6 seconds to go and only 8 minutes left, he's never going to do it. But he's definitely having fun in that Porsche. It's feeling planted. I think we were slightly robbed of a good battle there for the win.
The Porsche seems to be very good when the fuel starts to go down. Seems to come alive. Maybe it's
Yeah,
how
and the
the
stint.
engine layout is over the rear axle. Helping with that.
But just in comparison to the next closest Porsche, Quade Clarson's did a 2:14.1, so it was nearly 2 seconds quicker. That lap was Devon Lisha, and he's done consecutive laps in 2:11, so really having a good time out there now. Shame he doesn't get a point for the fastest lap. Maybe we should bring that in next year.
Yeah. Oh, we can think about that. It's not a bad idea.
It's been quite interesting in F1, hasn't it? And in what has been quite a easy, well, it's been an easy season for the winners, but that fastest lap, we've had random people just suddenly pop in for fresh tyres to try and get it. It's quite interesting. I don't think we'd ever be, very rarely would we have a whole pit stop window available to us here for a tyre change.
So we just got just over 6.5 minutes remaining of this race, the final Division 1 race of the 2020.2 season. Been a fantastic one, as we've already mentioned. Over 170 competitors, 3 different championships, doing very well indeed. And I just want to thank everyone involved in the season. Big thank you to you, Daniel, as well, for your commentating and streaming that you've been doing. Been a big help. And then, of course, you've got Ryan Hill and Alan Patterson. Ryan does the GP series and Alan the TC series. And it's been great to have everybody on board helping out. Of course, Nick Hodgson and Sas van der Westhuizen as well helping out with commentary. yeah, I'd like to appeal to anybody else who wants to get involved and help out next season. The workload is getting more and more as we go, and obviously all of us have other things going on in our lives as well. If you feel that you want to add something to Sim Race South Africa, please get hold of one of us, and yeah, let's have a chat about it and see what we can do. We need more streamers and commentators, as well as administrators. The administrator side of it doesn't have to be a whole lot of work. It depends on how you do it, but you can be creative about it, so it's not too taxing. But yeah, I can certainly say it's quite satisfying to organize an event and to have it executed so well.
Yeah, big shout out to all the drivers as well. I think just the standard of driving throughout all the series has been excellent. It gives us something to commentate on. But yeah, the respect from the drivers is generally incredibly clean. Go and enter any online lobby in Assetto Corsa and you'll soon work out that this is not the norm, but it is a very, very high standard. And I think that the community in general looks after and supports each other, which is great to see. So just thanks for everyone for that. Of the 170 sign-ups, I don't think we have very many issues to deal with, which is always really nice. Yeah, I think everyone's just here for a nice competitive drive, no matter where you are, whatever standard you are, it doesn't matter. Everything there's always some fun to be had for all.
And you can really tell with how the drivers get on when involved in incidents and investigation reports are done and penalties being handed out. And it's great to see that generally people just get on with it and respect each other. And yeah, we just look forward to the next race and learn from what happened in the last race and be better for the next one.
I think we even had one incident this season where I think Sass, he actually put a penalty against himself.
Yes, yeah.
Because he was so appalled at his own driving. Yeah. He put a race investigation against himself, and yeah, gladly took his penalty. So yeah, that just shows you the sort of feeling that they've got here. I don't think there's any malicious driving ever, but sometimes that's just the way it goes. But yeah, overall, it's a very good standard of driving.
Yeah, that thing's to be quite proud of. You can see the guys moving aside when they think they've made a mistake and affect somebody else's race. And you don't have to do that, of course. It's just a sort of a gentleman's agreement to do that. Also eradicates of a penalty going towards you in case you did make a mistake and you just drove off. We do take that into account when we do study the incidents, and generally if that person has waited, then we say that's enough. Yeah, I think it brings a good feeling to the racing.
But it's nice having such a 90-minute ACC. This has really become like the endurance side of the series, if you like. And then we've got a GP was half that time, and then TCR is a ridiculous sprint format, which has lent itself to a little bit more pushing and shoving. Yes. But it is sort of what the series is designed to do, not condoning desperate lunges at all, but it is it is that sort of series, but you've got additional drop rounds to sort of combat that, if you like. But it is a massive mixture. You can get involved with which part of it that you like, but if you're after a bit of variety, you're certainly going to get it here.
Daniel, Fish is just 3 seconds behind Essa. Did you see that?
Just looking at that, yeah, he's just been relentless on the pace, as Devon Lisher. He just did a 1:11.4 again. He's just 11 after 11 after 11. He's really putting it on. But I mean, Essa's got this lap and one more lap to go. I think he should cross the line not after the clock has hit 0, so he'll have to complete the next lap. And he will be glad to see the finish line by the looks of it, with Devon Lisher slashing his time down. Still, Essa at the end of both stints just really starting to struggle, but he had such a nice, comfortable cushion after the pit stop window. It just took the pressure all off it, really. Yes, they come around Spoon now, so there will be one more lap after this one to complete. Devon Lisher will wish there was probably 4 or 5 more laps to go. So just like the first stint, he's really enjoying himself in that Porsche now at the end of the stint. Considering the amount, sort of the track conditions we've had for 90 minutes, for these two cars to still be split by only 3 seconds, it's very impressive.
Stefan Herbst in 8th position, challenging Leslie Oliphant for 7th. Good fight between these two.
On the final lap now. Give it all you can.
But, as we've heard there, we're on the final lap of the race now. Herbst are on the outside. Where's Oliphant? Oliphant's let him go, yeah. Or not let him go. Herbst swoops around the outside. Gets that move done. Good race there by Stefan Herbst. Very impressive. 7th he goes now. That's another standout performance here, just like Hannes van Beek. 5th. Isherwood 2 and Dirkies Wonderful creeping up into the top 10 in the Big Bentley. Good stuff.
Isherwood at 9th, yeah, definitely. We've had this track has definitely allowed a few drivers that we don't as often see at the top end, but giving them an opportunity to shine, and that they're really making it. I mean, Hannes van Beek superb in 5th position, but yeah, we've got quite a few standout drivers. They'll be very happy with their performance, I think, in these very tricky conditions. Just mixed up the field just a little bit.
As you can see Essa, but he's run out of time.
Yeah, it was all completely and utterly neutralised during the pit stop window, really, for Devon Lisher. We're not 100% sure where it went wrong. I reckon Lisher might have a few 100 litres too much fuel in that Porsche as he finishes this race, because his pit stop was just so much longer than Essa, or massively held up. I didn't see him held up that much, to be fair, not 7 and a bit seconds. I think the actual physical pit stop was longer.
Judd Woods passed Van Beek for 5th position. Comes Essen up. Come through 130R for the last time. The chicane now. So yeah, Essa will come through to take his 2nd victory of the 2020.2 South African Sim GT Series.
I think he'll enjoy that one as well. 90-minute race in the wet. I think he'll be pretty satisfied with his work there. Devon Lisher will be really satisfied as well, because that was a superb 2nd place.
What a race, yeah. Claessen's all finished on the podium, it seems. Great effort from quite a way back at the start.
That was a magical strategy call, wasn't it?
Yes.
And Patton just going as long as they possibly could. It gained them 2 or 3 places each. So it was a good call.
And Claessen's finishes on the podium for ATK Racing. Great effort. Kieran Patterson will get 4th position. Good drivers we've mentioned. Bashir, Judd Watt will get 5th. For ATK to wrap up the team's championship for ATK Sim Racing team. Congratulations to them.
It's a clean sweep for ATK.
Perfect championship. Hannes van Beek will finish in 6th position in the end. Stefan Herbst quite a way back in 7th in the Lexus. Comes now.
Nice to see the Aston Martin and the Lexus up there, though. I don't think we've seen those two manufacturers feature in the top 10 as well as they have here. We've got Isherwood also in the Aston. We saw how good the Lexus was in Suzuka. I think it's almost destined that the Lexus is going to be good around the Japanese track. It was last time out in Leslie Oliphant as well, but Stefan Herbst has done a fine job negotiating that Lexus round here in 90 minutes of wet weather.
Oh, he's gone all crazy. Was the race finished for him? It looks like it.
Yeah, I think it's just finished for him. So I'm off to hide in the deepest depths of the internet for until the new season, because I don't want to be hounded too much. I'm locking my doors. no one can get to me. This wasn't my fault, but very well done for everyone that managed to complete the race in what was horrific weather for 90 minutes.
Yeah, well, I think that wraps up the proceedings for this evening. Big thank you to you, Daniel, once again for joining me in the commentary booth. Great race it was. And
Yeah, no worries. It's been a great season, and I look forward to seeing you all in January. You can have a nice, well-earned break.
Green light, give it all you can.
Again, a big congratulations to ATK Sim Racing team for wrapping up the team's championship. And I think Quake Larson also finished second in the drivers' championship. Great effort by them. Well, until Wednesday evening, if you're not going to join us in the race, we might have a stream. I'm not quite sure yet. We're going to have to see if Alan can put together a stream for us. But anyway, until then, all the best. And yeah, and we might see for next season as well in the 2021.1 season. Stay tuned for any updates regarding that. Anyway, cheers everybody. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.